In the heart of Alexandria, amidst the French cafes and the gilded salons of Egyptian high society in the 1940s, an elegant woman moved through the corridors of power with the ease of someone born to that world. Yolande Gabai de Botton possessed the natural charm of the great Alexandrian ladies, those cosmopolitan women who transitioned between cultures and languages with the same facility they changed dresses for every social occasion. Born in 1913 into one of the city's most influential Jewish families, Yolande grew up breathing the air of a multicultural Alexandria, where Jews, Christians, and Muslims shared not only the urban space, but also business, politics, and social life. Her father, Clemente Rajamim Gabai, descended from an Italian Jewish lineage from Livorno, while her mother, Fortunata, carried the Sephardic heritage of Salonika or Istanbul in her veins. This blend of Mediterranean origins shaped Yolande's cosmopolitan character, and from an early age, she demonstrated an extraordinary ability to adapt to different environments and gain the trust of people from the most varied backgrounds. At the age of 17, following the customs of the time, her marriage was arranged with Jacques de Botton, a member of a respected merchant family from Salonika, whose roots dated back to the 16th century, when their ancestors distinguished themselves as rabbis and Talmudic scholars before becoming prosperous merchants in the 19th century. The marriage brought Yolande not only financial stability, but primarily access to the most exclusive circles of Alexandrian society. The de Bottons were known for their international connections and influence in banking, which opened up a world of social possibilities for the young wife, which she expertly explored. In 1935, at the age of 22, Yolande gave birth to her first son, Gilbert, who would later become a prominent banking businessman in Switzerland and the father of the renowned philosopher Alain de Botton. However, the marriage did not withstand Yolande's growing ambitions, as she began to show increasing interest in journalism and regional politics. Her separation from Jacques de Botton, although amicable, marked the beginning of a new phase in her life, in which she began to build her own professional and social identity. As a divorced woman in a still traditional society, Yolande needed to reinvent herself, and it was in this process of transformation that she discovered her true abilities: the capacity to obtain confidential information through her social connections and her natural aptitude for observation and political analysis. Her work as a correspondent for the Palestine Post, which would later become the Jerusalem Post, provided the perfect cover for her information-gathering activities, allowing her to circulate freely among Egyptian diplomats, politicians, and military personnel without arousing suspicion about her true intentions. Yolande's transformation from socialite and journalist into a spy for what would become the Mossad occurred almost cinematically during an elegant cocktail party in 1945. Moshe Sharet, then secretary of the political department of the Jewish Agency and future second president of Israel, was on an official visit to Egypt when he met the young journalist through mutual acquaintances. Sharet, a man with a sharp strategic vision, immediately realized the extraordinary potential Yolande represented for the interests of the Zionist movement. She possessed three rare and precious qualities for intelligence work: unrestricted access to Egyptian circles of power, credibility as a journalist that allowed her to ask questions without arousing suspicion, and a network of contacts that included high-ranking Egyptian government officials, foreign diplomats, and leaders of the Arab League. During that seemingly casual conversation at the cocktail party, Sharet made a proposal that would definitively change the course of Yolande's life. He invited her to work secretly for the Jewish cause in Palestine, using her privileged position to obtain strategic information about Arab plans regarding the future Jewish state. To Sharet's surprise, Yolande accepted the proposal without hesitation, motivated by a combination of political conviction, thirst for adventure, and genuine concern for the fate of her people. At that moment, the agent Nicole was born, the codename Yolande would use in her communications with the Jewish intelligence services during the crucial years preceding Israel's independence. Yolande's recruitment operation demonstrated the growing sophistication of the Jewish intelligence services, which already understood the vital importance of obtaining accurate information about the intentions and capabilities of neighboring Arab countries. Yolande's work began immediately after her recruitment, initially focusing on gathering information about the activities of the Secretary-General of the Arab League, Abd al-Rahman Azzam, a central figure in coordinating Arab policies regarding the Palestinian question. Through her network of social contacts, Yolande managed to approach Azzam and other Arab leaders who regularly visited Cairo, gaining access to information that would normally remain restricted to the highest government circles. Her ability to win the trust of these personalities was remarkable, and she skillfully exploited the natural tendency of powerful men to underestimate the political intelligence of women, especially when those women were young, attractive, and seemingly interested only in social matters. One of the most impressive aspects of Yolande's work was her ability to maintain simultaneous relationships with information sources who were often political rivals, managing to navigate the complex currents of Egyptian politics without ever arousing suspicion about her true loyalties. She developed a public persona as a curious but politically naive journalist, interested in regional issues more for professional reasons than for deep personal convictions. One of the most emblematic cases of Yolande's effectiveness as an intelligence agent was her influence on Widar Bage, the Swedish envoy to Egypt. Bage, an experienced diplomat initially neutral regarding the Arab-Jewish conflict, ended up falling in love with the young spy, who knew how to use his feelings to win his sympathy for the Zionist cause. Through seemingly casual conversations and a subtle but effective seduction, Yolande managed to transform Bage from a neutral observer into an enthusiastic sympathizer of the movement for Jewish independence. Eli Peleg, an emissary of the Yishuv in Cairo, later reported the impressive transformation of the Swedish diplomat. A few months ago, he was indifferent to our cause, but today he is an enthusiastic Zionist. This ability to influence strategic personalities through personal relationships became a hallmark of Yolande's work, demonstrating how she managed to combine personal charm with long-term political objectives. However, this same relationship also illustrated the inherent risks of espionage, as Bage's enthusiasm for the Zionist cause began to diminish significantly after the assassination of Volker Bernadotte in September 1948, an event that caused a diplomatic crisis between Israel and Sweden. The death of Bernadotte, a United Nations mediator assassinated by Jewish extremists, forced Bage to reconsider his position, reminding Yolande that in the world of espionage and geopolitics, personal loyalties can quickly transform into complicated diplomatic responsibilities. During the critical period of 1947 and 1948, when tensions in the Middle East reached unprecedented levels due to the imminent partition of Palestine, Yolande provided the Yishuv with some of the most valuable information of the entire Israeli War of Independence. Through her carefully cultivated network of contacts over the years, she managed to obtain copies of the full texts of the resolutions adopted by the Arab League in 1947 and 1948, documents that revealed the Arab determination to sacrifice all political and economic interests of the Arab world to save Arab Palestine. This information was crucial for Jewish leaders to understand the extent of Arab commitment to the approaching war, allowing them to adjust their military and diplomatic strategies accordingly. Furthermore, Yolande uncovered important details about Arab military plans for the period following the end of the British Mandate in Palestine, including information about the creation of Fawzi al-Qawuqji's Arab Liberation Army in late 1947. Through her infiltration of the American embassy in Cairo, she managed to provide precise data on the number of Tunisian and Algerian soldiers fighting alongside the Palestinian Arabs, information that significantly aided Israeli military planning. Yolande's ability to penetrate foreign diplomatic circles demonstrated not only her personal skill, but also the growing sophistication of Jewish intelligence operations, which already understood the importance of obtaining information from multiple sources to build a complete picture of the regional situation. The transmission of this vital information to Tel Aviv presented considerable technical challenges that illustrated the operational difficulties faced by the early agents of what would become the Mossad. Although Yolande possessed a radio transmitter, she did not have anyone qualified to operate it, forcing her to rely on slower and less secure communication methods. Most of her information was sent via conventional mail through Europe or the United States, a process that frequently resulted in significant delays in the delivery of intelligence that could be crucial for immediate military decisions. These delays exemplified a common problem in the early years of the Israeli intelligence services, the lack of adequate technical infrastructure to support sophisticated espionage operations. Despite these logistical limitations, Yolande demonstrated remarkable creativity in seeking alternative methods to transmit urgent information, utilizing personal contacts, friendly diplomats, and even tourists to carry important messages. Throughout this period of intense activity, she continued to maintain her cover as a journalist and socialite, a pretense that required not only considerable dramatic skills, but also an extraordinary ability to manage multiple identities simultaneously. Yolande's espionage work was not limited only to gathering information. She also engaged in more subtle influence operations, using her social position to shape opinions and create networks of sympathizers who could be useful for Jewish interests in the future. The abrupt end of Yolande's espionage career came in July 1948, when her extraordinary luck finally ran out and she was arrested by Egyptian authorities. The detention occurred at a particularly delicate moment, when tensions between Egypt and the newly created State of Israel reached peak levels due to the ongoing war. During her time in prison, Yolande demonstrated the same courage and determination that had characterized her entire career as a spy, resisting interrogations and remaining silent about her activities and contacts. Her health, however, deteriorated rapidly during confinement, forcing the Egyptian authorities to release her in August 1948. Immediately after her release, Yolande was deported to Paris, where she met with Moshe Sharet and other Israeli leaders who already occupied important positions in the new government of the Jewish state. The meeting in Paris marked the official end of her espionage activities in Egypt, but not the end of her contribution to Israeli interests. In Paris, she was incorporated into the Middle East Department of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where she became a key figure thanks to her deep knowledge of Egyptian politics and society. Even away from Cairo, Yolande continued to maintain contacts with her former sources in Egypt, providing valuable information that helped Israel understand Egyptian intentions during the critical early years of its existence as an independent state. Yolande's transition from active espionage to official diplomatic work reflected not only her personal importance to Israeli interests, but also the natural evolution of the Israeli intelligence services during the period of national consolidation. By 1949, she was already considered one of the most important figures in the Middle East Department, contributing not only operational information, but also strategic analyses based on her unique understanding of the Arab mindset and culture. Her work in Paris included maintaining networks of contacts throughout the Middle East, analyzing regional political developments, and advising other Israeli agents operating in the region. In 1950, Yolande was transferred to Madrid, where she continued working for the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, utilizing Spain's relatively neutral position in the Arab-Israeli conflict to maintain contacts with various stakeholders in the region. During this period, she began to use the Hebraised name Hamor, Mount of Myrrh, symbolizing her complete transformation from an Alexandrian socialite into a committed Israeli citizen. However, her health continued to deteriorate, and in 1951 she moved definitively to Israel, where she spent her last years fighting the cancer that finally overcame her in 1959. Yolande's death occurred in relative anonymity, as the secret nature of her activities prevented any public recognition of her extraordinary contributions to the establishment and consolidation of the State of Israel. The legacy of Yolande Hamor remained largely unknown to the public for decades after her death, a situation that reflected both the secret nature of her work and the general tendency to underestimate the contributions of women to the history of espionage and international politics. Only in recent years, through more comprehensive historical research and the gradual opening of Israeli government archives, has the true extent of her importance to the early years of the State of Israel begun to be understood. In belated recognition of her contributions, a square in Jerusalem was named in her honor, and a commemorative plaque recalls her services in favor of Israel. Her granddaughter, Miel de Botton, has actively worked to preserve and disseminate Yolande's memory, producing documentaries and writing about her extraordinary life. Through these efforts, Yolande's figure has begun to emerge from the shadows of history as a remarkable example of courage, intelligence, and dedication to the cause she embraced. Her story offers a unique perspective on the early years of the Arab-Israeli conflict, showing how determined individuals were able to influence historical events through carefully planned and executed actions. Yolande's work also illustrates the crucial importance of human intelligence in the modern era, demonstrating that, despite all technological advancements, the ability to obtain information through personal relationships and direct observation remains fundamental to the success of espionage operations. A retrospective analysis of Yolande's career also reveals important aspects about the evolution of Israeli intelligence services and the role of women in modern espionage. She was a pioneer in many respects, demonstrating that women could be as effective as men in intelligence operations, especially when their activities leveraged social stereotypes that tended to underestimate their intellectual and political capabilities. Her ability to simultaneously navigate the worlds of high society, journalism, and espionage without arousing suspicion demonstrated skills that would become distinctive characteristics of the best Mossad agents in the following decades. Yolande's method of building genuine relationships with her sources, rather than simply exploiting them, set a standard for long-term operations that proved extremely effective in contexts where personal trust was fundamental for access to sensitive information. Her story also highlights the importance of ideological motivation in espionage, showing how deep personal convictions can sustain individuals through the risks and pressures inherent in intelligence work. Finally, the case of Yolande Hammer demonstrates how seemingly impersonal historical events are often shaped by the decisions and actions of courageous individuals who choose to risk everything for their convictions, even when they know that their recognition may never come during their lifetime.